We're off and running off the hook sports. Here we go on a Tuesday with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready. All right, let's get going now. We've got college football takeaways from week one, this day in Tennessee sports history. The stat of the day, Nico Iamaleava and this guy called Dylan Sampson, who Caleb doesn't particularly care for, might be the best backfield since Manning and Lewis. You know those guys. So who said that? That would be John Adams, who will join us just a little bit later. Where do we think Nico finishes among the SEC quarterbacks? I'm curious on that for a couple of different reasons. I think it's Jackson Dart, and that makes it more interesting, obviously, with you got a Lane Kiffin down there that I think you know. Billy Napier has a breakdown. James Pearce only played 10 snaps against UTC, and Rickey Gibson didn't play on Saturday as well, had him projected as a starter. So there's a lot to get to. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I am good. I was out walking with my dog and dropping my baby off at daycare this morning. And you ever walk outside on like right after football season has kicked off and it feels cooler, just a little bit cooler. And you're like, oh, it feels like fall. And that means it feels like football. And this is just amazing.
Yeah, we got a little bit of that. I thought like the week before, there was a Wednesday morning too, but there always is that moment of the year where I'm like, this is fallish. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate that, as I want to dive into a couple of different things. And we're going to start with Tennessee's defensive backfield, which has long been a concern. And no Rickey Gibson on Saturday. What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Caleb. This is essentially what Josh Heupel said about Rickey Gibson yesterday. And I think Rickey Gibson is one of the most talented players on Tennessee's defense for sure, and maybe on Tennessee's entire team. He was projected as a starter, and basically Josh Heupel said, I just wasn't ready to go. We just didn't play him. He could have gone. I don't know what to read into that, and I checked with sources yesterday, and I didn't get a definitive answer that I feel comfortable conveying. So what do you make of Rickey Gibson not playing on Saturday? Because I think you and I agree he's one of Tennessee's two best corners, and not having him out there not only takes one of your best players athletically and from a scheme standpoint off the field, but it also starts to hit your depth in a group that's trying to build chemistry. So Caleb, how much of a concern should this be?
You know, it seems like a bigger concern than I would have thought initially. There's a little more to read into this, Dave. So the day before, Rickey Gibson was just fully held out. And it's safe to say whether or not he was telling the truth. Josh Heupel was implying that he was hurt, right?
See, he was so, he was so generic about it I don't know.
Well, what I mean is he wanted you to take away the idea that he was hurt, but he didn't without him actually saying it because he didn't want you to think he lied to you. Does that make sense?
I guess. Caleb, I will say this. I came away from the press conference yesterday thinking, and I do not know this, but if I would just take any player that was suddenly not in the lineup, I would think he did something to get in trouble in the offseason, being a young guy. That would be my conclusion. I do not know that. Okay. I am not reporting that. I tried my hardest to find out yesterday what was actually going on. I guess I think back to when I'm sitting in the press box at Alabama, and you could probably help me in the year because you're super smart. And we get a press release that 6 guys aren't playing. And if I remember correctly, now this 6 Alabama players weren't playing and they were suspended for some textbook scandal. Do you remember that, Caleb, back in the day?
Oh, yeah, Nick Saban's first year, 2007. I remember that very well.
Okay, so we're sitting there and we get this release and they hand it out to everybody, which is kind of strange. But I'm wondering if I can't help but wonder if that's the case because it's young men and I did stupid stuff when I was younger, but I don't know. I guess my overall arching question, is it time for Josh Heupel to drop some of the gamesmanship and be a little bit more open and honest? Because if he just said disciplinary reasons, that could mean missing class. It doesn't mean like that Lane Kiffin group that held up a convenience store, for goodness sake. We all do stupid stuff. I certainly would have been suspended for a game as a freshman if I played football. There's no for missing class. So, Caleb, that's my overarching theme here is, does Josh Heupel owe it to the fans to be a little bit more open?
Oh, I think he does. Well, and that's why reading more into this, what I was going to say was, so the day before Tennessee played UT Chattanooga and Rickey Gibson was held out, the SEC implemented their requirements of injury reports. I don't know if you know that. That's official now. You have to have and provide adequate injury reports. Now, I don't know if that was required for that week because it was so early, but they said they were going to require it 3 days before kickoff, so it was too late for that week. But Rickey Gibson wasn't on any injury report, and Rickey Gibson just didn't play, and then we find out afterward he didn't play. And, people can celebrate Heupel not telling the media that's all he's standing up to the media. Guys, we're trying to help answer questions for you, the fans. That's what we do here. Like, we're not trying to play gotcha. We're trying to answer legitimate questions that fans are going to have. So if you guys want to be kept left in the dark, and I'm not talking to our message board or anything, I'm just saying in general, when fans come at us for doing that, you're celebrating that you're being left in the dark. And
Dylan, I've read about the potential groin injury, and yes, that was a possibility. But why don't you just say that? I mean, a groin. Listen, I understand why you wouldn't talk about an offensive lineman that has a knee injury because somebody could go for his knee. But why wouldn't you just say he has a pulled groin? He is not able to go. And I think that's probably the reason. I'm not trying to question Josh Heupel's decisions over whether or not to play him. I'm not questioning basically anything about his coaching. I'm questioning the way he handles public relations at times, because you brought it up yesterday and it was pervasive throughout message boards and everything else, that some of what Josh Heupel said about Cooper Mays seemed to put pressure on Cooper Mays to play. I just think he could handle some of these situations better. And guys, I don't want you to think that I'm coming down hard on Josh Heupel. I'm not. I think he's one of the top coaches in the nation. It just seems like you could provide the fans with some more information.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at too. And it does seem like it does feel like Biden. No, listen to me. Why did I say Biden? What is wrong with me today? Like, it does feel like Heupel would cover for Rickey Gibson if Rickey Gibson was. It feels like Rickey Gibson did something to get in trouble because the reason I say that is, you're right. If it was just an injury, I feel like Heupel would be doing him a favor by saying he was injured, wouldn't he? I mean, you're not doing him any favors. Yeah, you're not doing any favors by not saying anything. And then we all speculate. Guys, we know how this ended up. We all speculated Jeremy Banks 2 years ago. The message board speculated at first. You're like, why is he not playing? Why is he not playing? Why is he not playing? That happened before kickoff at South Carolina. And then we find out he started a fight with a teammate. And that teammate happened to be Hendon Hooker.
Right. So, and then there was all kinds of debate over whether or not it was a fight, whether or not he got in some sort of other trouble. So I'm just asking you, again, I'm not criticizing anyone. Please be sure. And I'm not criticizing Josh Heupel. If this is the way you want to handle it that way. But would you like more personnel info from Josh Heupel? Is on our poll question. Yes, only fair. No, keep some secrets. Now, I will say this too, from a public relations standpoint, this goes back to why didn't you take a Nico or a James Pearce to SEC Media Days? I'm not complaining at all, but we're going to get into James Pearce here in a second. And guys, it sounds like I'm being a whiny media member because I want to interview them. No, I'm a conduit, as Caleb alluded to. I just want to bring you information and the best information every day. And just to say, oh, Rickey Gibson had a little muscle pull. He's fine. That would have been the end of it.
That's exactly it. That would have been the end of it. And typically, this is why I think it's more to it. Typically, Heupel would say that after the game, even if he was employing gamesmanship before the game, which gives off a vibe that there's a little bit more there, guys. I'm sorry, but like it's just not normal for him to not say anything the way he is about this. Be like, oh, he wasn't ready to go. And I mean, even by Josh Heupel standards, Josh Heupel is much more reserved than other coaches, but even his standards, there's something there. Now, Dave, would you rather Josh Heupel do this, or would you rather have him say Rickey Gibson landed on a helmet?
Well, I mean, don't flat out lie. I don't want to see that. But I'm just interested, guys, because I think we have a very smart audience. So I'm asking you, would you like more personnel info from Josh Heupel? And right now it's about 60. It's about 2-1. 65% no. Keep some secrets. Yes, only fair. That's cool. All right. I'm with you. If that's where you want to be, that's fine. And some secrets is a little bit different from a starter not playing, in my opinion. And we had James Pearce that played a very limited role. I want to get to that. Is that any sort of cause for concern? Because, guys, UTC is at such a lower level than Tennessee. The minimum you were going to see was 30 or 40-10. I mean, that was the minimum. So you can't pull a lot from this game. I don't think NC State's that much. Well, they're that much better. I don't think they're incredible, and I think Tennessee could lose 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 starters and still beat Tennessee. But I want to touch base on 2 things. Number one, what does this say about Tennessee's secondary, if anything, that they were able to go out and have a fantastic game, Caleb, and they lost one of their starters earlier in the week? Or does it say anything because it's Chattanooga?
Are you saying what would it have said if one of their players got hurt against Chattanooga?
No, I'm asking, does it say Tennessee has a deep secondary and that should somewhat be celebrated, or do you just say it's Chattanooga, Dave? Come on, be serious.
I'm going to say it's Chattanooga, Dave, be serious. But wait, with the caveat, because there were previous UT coaches that would not have held out their stars for these games and would have bragged to the high heavens for winning a game against Chattanooga 40-0 or 50-0. And I can tell you that
Butch.
yes, Butch and Dooley, by the way. Derek Dooley would have absolutely said this was a real good win. And I mean, matter of fact, Dooley, to open Dooley's 3rd year at Tennessee, they beat NC State 35-21, a mediocre NC State, when he's like, that was just a great win, a real good win. I'm like, NC State, bro, and you're trying to have like a top 10 caliber program this year, but okay, right. You do you.
But okay, you do you. Okay, but my other question is, with this injury report, how will Josh Heupel handle it moving forward, what does your coffee cup say? What does your coffee cup say?
Cheer accordingly or shut up.
That's pretty good. That's the worst.
Right?
Saying, like they're saying, oh, that guy did this and that and whatever. Hit the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. We're going to discuss how Tennessee.
I need to correct something real quick before this segment ends too.
Yes,
we're
not over.
I think that,
we're not done.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to go ahead and correct it now?
No. If we stay on this segment, that's fine. I just want to correct it before we move on.
Okay.
That I said.
The show brought to you by our good friends at Banks and Jones. They go to trial. Other attorneys don't. BanksandJones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Caleb, give me that correction. What do you got?
You guys are right. This SEC rule on injuries is for SEC games, not non-conference games. So it could be Josh Heupel's employing gamesmanship just to get around the NC State game, which Tennessee should. You're right. They should dog walk them, but at the same time, it's their one tough non-conference opponent. So,
well, I mean,
doing this with Rickey Gibson.
I don't think NC State's over there thinking, "Oh my God, if Rickey Gibson plays, we're up the creek." I mean, you don't even know. It would be one thing if Nico had a tweet knee, okay, and you're not sure that you're going to play him. I'm up for gamesmanship all day long. I just think is it a little bit silly?
NC State has a good passing. Wait, NC State has a very good passing game. Tennessee, we think Rickey Gibson could end up being a lockdown quarter. Maybe you don't want to reveal that until the NC State game.
Okay, I think they're going to test him throughout the game until he proves otherwise, and then
maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want NC State to test Rickey Gibson because they believe Gibson's that good.
Okay, I'm going to set up a new poll question right now. And right now, would you like more personnel info from Josh Heupel? Yes, only fair. No, keep secrets. So I'm going to change it to, how about this? Josh Heupel, pick one word, Caleb, that would describe Josh Heupel's PR skills.
Ooh.
Because I got my word. You ready for my word?
Yeah, go.
Silly. Just plain silly. I mean, the or thing, and I'm not coming down on him. I just don't think it affects the game. I think it's silly. I understand gamesmanship. I do. But I just think it's silly.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to give me another word. I got to fill out a whole poll question.
Silly.
I'm gonna go typical coach speak, and then what else?
No, wait. Oh, so we can do phrases. Phrases.
I mean, I hope silly wins. Calculated. That's a good one. I like that. Austin, are you in Ireland, as your name says? Okay, calculated.
Ahead of the curve.
Okay, I say typical coach speak, calculated, ahead of the curve. So go ahead and you can vote on that now.
And then silly. You obviously want silly in there too.
Oh, silly's in there. Silly was number one. Silly was filled out before I even asked you for yours. So the poll question is on there now. Josh Heupel's PR skills are silly, typical coach speak, calculated, ahead of the curve. A couple of getting votes are right off the bat are calculated and typical coach speak. Calculated, yes, I agree with that. Typical coach speak, no. The way he kind of mumbles off and doesn't say anything, just say, we're not going to talk about injuries. We're not going to talk about what happened with Rickey Gibson. Just be straight up and say it. It's not typical. You don't think it's typical, do you, Caleb?
No, I don't really think it's typical. I mean, I think this is very unique how Heupel does it. I mean, yes, coaches lie. Okay, spoiler alert, coaches lie. They at the very least mislead you guys. And I don't, but Heupel takes the Cajunist to a whole nother level. And not all coaches lie. There is a reason, and I told you guys this last week, there's a reason that we have made exceptions for Steve Spurrier's behavior as media members that we've never made for any other coach in sports. And it's because he has never been a liar. He is the most honest dude ever in the history of coaching.
Yeah. No,
he just told us straight up that he suspended Rickey Gibson.
And he was really open about, if you hit a woman, you're just not going to be on my team. You're not Gator material. I always thought that was a pretty strong stance. So right now, calculated leads, typical coach speak. Right behind that, ahead of the curve and silly are both getting a couple of votes. But I just think it's silly. I can be in the minority. It is definitely not the first time. Let's turn our attention. Let's turn our attention to James Pearce, who only played 10 snaps against Chattanooga. Let me tell you, Caleb, how much I love this. I have trouble putting it into words because obviously he was healthy. Obviously he wasn't in any sort of trouble, so we don't have to question and wonder. But I love the fact that they limited him against Chattanooga. Make him as fresh as he possibly can be for the Oklahoma game. And when other lesser opponents are out there, don't play him a lot either. I love it from a scheme standpoint. I'm sure they've developed new ways to get James Pearce into the backfield. I love it from a he's fresh standpoint. They truly are thinking about playing 17 games. Now, that's almost impossible to do because if you won the SEC, then you would probably be in the top 4. But anyway.
But you could lose the SEC. Then you would. If you lose the SEC, you play 17 games.
Okay, you're right. Well, they've dropped that number before. That's not just me. So Joey Halsley has said we're thinking about 17 games. Caleb, I love it. I mean, what does James Pearce need to do against Chattanooga for Tennessee to win and win big? What does James Pearce need to do against Chattanooga to help his draft stock? Absolutely nothing. So James Pearce might want to play. He might be bouncing on the sideline saying, I practiced the whole offseason. I want to get in there. But I'm saying kudos, Josh Heupel, because I love this. Listen, he's an edge rusher, guys. He knows what to do. I have been told that his football IQ is incredibly high. This is not just a great athlete. I love it. I love it. And I think it is out of the ordinary and is atypical. People wouldn't have done this years ago, but now that they're doing it, or Josh Heupel's doing it, I absolutely love it, Caleb. Am I wrong?
Okay, so I'm a little mixed on this because, again, this was another one where we didn't really, we had to track that he only played 10 plays this year and or in that game. And I was saying yesterday, don't worry, teams were scheming against him. And they were, by the way. That's why Tyree West was so effective, was they were running away from the edge rusher. Turns out that edge rusher is more often Joshua Joseph than James Pearce. But what I'll say to that is that, look, James Pearce, we're not going to get into it, but had some personal things happen to him over the summer that are just, I can't imagine what he's going through on that. And that does lead you to wonder, how will he do that? How will he take that? Will he channel it into being dominant on the football field, or will he channel it into, will it just kind of freeze him up? I think given those facts, you want him to place a decent bid against UT Chattanooga just to kind of get the feeling of football maybe back in him. And so the question is, did he play the 10 snaps because Heupel tried to keep him safe for next week? Or did he play the 10 snaps because they aren't sure he's fully ready to go out there and go 110%?
This is a very sensitive topic because what I've been told about James Pearce is he really doesn't trust a lot of people because he's had a tough upbringing. And, not taking him to SEC media days was a part of that. Ideally, you would have taken Nico, James Pearce, Brew McCoy. They didn't take Brew McCoy because he was going to be asked about the leg over and over and over again, as he was at his golf tournament that we attended. So he was going to face those questions repeatedly. James Pearce, I just don't think is comfortable in those settings. Now, that has nothing to do with his play, but let's talk about strictly from a keep him fresh standpoint. I don't think they were afraid to play him 50 plays against Chattanooga. I think they could have. But Caleb, from a keep him fresh standpoint, do you like it? Do you love it? Do you think he needs more snaps? Get your answer after I'll tell you about Medicare Misty, licensed in over 40 states, guys. So no matter where you're watching, how about free Medicare advice that you can get from Medicare Misty at no charge to you?
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, so Caleb, let me ask you this. From just a keeping him healthy standpoint, do you like the fact that he only played 10 snaps? The other star player, Nico, played a half. Should he have played a half? Should he have played less? James Pearce, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have played him a little more. I may would have at least played him. I don't know what the number was. It definitely would have been more than 10 snaps, though. Maybe not the whole half, but I think we all wanted to see James Pearce make an impact in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know. I just felt that I get it. Edge rusher's not quarterback. You do run the risk of getting hurt at edge rusher, but I still think he should have played more than 10 snaps. I think there's a lot of excitement about what he can do. There's no gamesmanship to apply to James Pearce. We all know what he can do. And also, is there such thing as gamesmanship on an edge rusher anyway, Dave? Maybe there is, but you know what? Do you study their tendencies, or are they just good or not good?
Here's my theory. Here's my theory too, from watching, as far as does he need snaps? Are they doing some different blitz schemes and stuff like that? I'm sure they are. You change things from year to year. My theory is that he's the motor that runs the car on some of those things. Did you notice you didn't see a lot of twists and stunts against Chattanooga? It was basically they were playing them straight up. They weren't going to show anything against Chattanooga. So, my theory is that, So my theory is that when James Pearce is in the game, he's the motor that moves the car. So you base your stunts and twists off him because he's your natural winner more times than not. I'm not saying he never twists around and goes underneath and does something fancy, as Tim Banks loves to do. But Caleb, I think he's the straw that stirs the drink. So I think other people base it off him. So I don't think there's any scenario in which he wouldn't be ready to play from the neck up. Again, I want to repeat it. His football IQ, I have been told, is off the charts. So that's pretty strong too. He's not just a great athlete, Caleb, which is why I'll give the ultimate compliment. He needs to be a Dallas Cowboy. That's the ultimate compliment I have for any college player. And that Love running back for Notre Dame, he needs to be a Dallas Cowboy. I've already picked a couple that I would like.
Why are you trying to ruin these kids' futures, man? Why would you do that to them?
Well, no, it's not bad for James Pearce because Pearce is young enough where he could live long enough that Jerry Jones could die and actually win a Super Bowl.
I think Big D gets to your head playing for the Cowboys. The glam of it. It reminds me. I'm a Grizzly fan. Zach Randolph. Everybody wondered how he could have been so great when he went to Memphis when he struggled with issues his whole career before. I'm like, yeah, that's because he came from a rough area and then got drafted to play with the Jailblazers with Rasheed Wallace and David Stoudemire. Of course, Zach Randolph was going to have problems. That's what you're trying to wish on James Pearce. Okay,
They're not like they used to be.
Oh, come on. Come on. I feel like they kind of are still. They still have their
Do
issues.
you ever wonder what some of those conversations, because for those that don't know, they had a White House and they called it the White House, and you could see it from the practice field. And it was, they all went in on a house so that they could, well, do hookers and blow. I mean, that's pretty much what it was all about.
Well, and then you think it died with him, but 20 years later, Joseph Randall's out here getting arrested for shoplifting underwear and cologne, and didn't get an endorsement deal with MeUndies for it. I don't know why you got to go steal underwear and cologne real quick, but it sounds like he was trying to cover something up and was in a rush. But
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I know, Steve. I'm sorry. I love the Cowboys. Yeah, they sober up. I haven't been hitting the bottle this morning yet, but when you were raised in Knoxville, you had 4 choices. It was Dolphins, Raiders, Cowboys, Steelers, because they were on TV all the time. And you pretty much chose from those. Those were before the Titans, or I'm sure I would have grown up a Titans fan, but you had the 4 to choose from. And I want to tell you that I didn't choose them because they were America's best team. I chose them based off the Dwight Clark catch, and I wanted Dallas to win that game, and I felt so bad for them. And then how did the 80s go for the Cowboys? It was bad. So you got to give me credit. I was a front runner. I didn't jump on board with Roger Staubach.
no, you actually, it's funny. You picked up teams that were like, you would have been a front runner if you became a fan in the 90s, but you picked them up in the 80s. In the Cowboys, when they weren't good. Like, you picked up the Yankees when they weren't good too.
I know. I love Don Mattingly. I thought he was so cool. All right. We might ask that. Our new poll question might be, who's the coolest Tennessee football player? And I'm going to include Nico in that. Travis says he was a Bo Jackson fan. I got to get back to that book. I got about 6 chapters in. It's very good, but I got to continue with that. So this day in Tennessee sports history, coming up, college football takeaways from week 1, stat of the day. John Adams will join us later in the program. He thinks that Nico and Dylan Sampson may be the Vols' best backfield since Peyton Manning and Jamal Lewis. That is strong. Stay tuned. Give me 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports. This day in Tennessee sports history next.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford & Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I just want to go ahead and apologize. I'm battling a bit of a cold today, so I hate looking at myself, and I hate the coughing during every other sentence. John Adams coming up, brought to you by Neubert Collision Center. There's somebody on the our name's Angie Ledbetter. I don't know if that's her real name, but there's somebody that just absolutely hates Caleb Calhoun on the message board. Her name's Angie Ledbetter. We do read all of the messages that you post on our separate videos, and I love them. So this is what Angie thinks of Caleb Calhoun. I will gladly keep Carson back over Nico. That's not that bad. And then Caleb, no way in hell Tennessee would have beat Georgia 2 years ago. To tell you the truth, Georgia would have won by more, except Kirby took his foot off the gas, and Georgia will defeat Tennessee again. Laugh emoji, laugh emoji. Caleb, that's the same one. Caleb, you won't think Georgia wins a natty when Georgia rips them apart. Well, you and Angie, man, we need to get you all in a ring and just going at it.
Oh, she hot?
She's Angie, bad looking.
Angie, you don't know me, because if you had actually paid attention to this show, you know Dave haven't. I've been the one saying more than anybody that Georgia could have beaten Tennessee by 40 in 2022 if they wanted to. All I said was that if they had targeted Brew McCoy more than Cedric Tillman, they may have been able to have more chances on offense in that game, because Brew McCoy was a better receiver and Cedric Tillman was banged up and they couldn't get past the Georgia cornerbacks. That doesn't mean they would have won that game. That doesn't even mean they would have been in that game, because you're right. They did take the foot off the gas. I just said Brew McCoy would have been a better chance for them to win than Cedric Tillman.
Man,
so, but you know, that would require you to actually pay attention to the show. So hit the like, subscribe button.
Shot. And I haven't said it yet. Cooper Mays will tell you as much. Let's get him to do so.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Not only hit like and subscribe, but be sure and hit that bell so you get the notifications. It's time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. Caleb, what do you got, sir?
30 years ago today, out in Pasadena, Keith Jackson said the words, "Here comes Peyton Manning making his entry as the quarterback for the University of Tennessee. Get used to it."
Wow. That was 30 years ago today when Jeremy Colquitt suffered the ACL injury.
Jerry Colquitt.
Jerry,
yeah.
Same person. His middle name was Jeremy. He was JJ. No, he wasn't. Wow, that was 30 years ago today. I wonder if Peyton knows that.
Yeah, Jerry Colquitt went down. Todd Helton came in after that. It had it was okay, but then they brought Peyton Manning in later in the first half, and he played one series. I don't even think he threw a pass. I think it was 3 runs, wasn't it? And then they punted it. And Tennessee.
You remember the famous story, right? I know somebody that was in the huddle that it did happen.
Jason Lehman told him to shut the bleep up and call the bleep play.
He goes, "All right, guys, we're going to go down and we're going to score a touchdown." And Jason Lehman said, "Freshman, shut the bleep up and just call the bleep and play." Because they're thinking their whole season's blown apart. They're out there in LA, and it happened early. It was first quarter, right?
It was seventh play of the UCLA game. Jerry Colquitt tore his knee up. Yeah. And it was really sad because Colquitt had he had stayed at Tennessee when he probably could have transferred elsewhere, even though Heath Schuler was his same age, and he just lucked out that Heath Schuler decided to go to the NFL early. And so he took that chance to stay another to stay another year. That was his year. That was his turn. And by the way, Peyton Manning's whole plan was to redshirt that year, learn under Todd Helton while Jerry Colquitt ran the offense.
They also had Brandon Stewart.
And they did have Brandon Stewart. Yeah, Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart together were going to learn under Todd Helton. But let's be honest, Peyton Manning was always going to win that job.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that quarterback room is Brandon Stewart went on to have a pretty good career at Texas A&M, and you've got 2 Hall of Famers, 1 baseball, 1 football. That's a crazy good quarterback room in a weird way if you think about it.
It's an amazing one. Oh, I'll go even further. Brandon Stewart saved Tennessee's national title season in '98, because I'm going to tell you guys this straight up. Brandon Stewart led Texas A&M to an upset win over Kansas State in the Big 12 title game. Otherwise, Kansas State goes and plays Tennessee. Now, Tennessee was better than Kansas State, way more talented. Florida State had more talent than Kansas State, too. But, Dave, this would have been John Chavis having to figure out the triple option in 1998. My money's on Kansas State.
Probably accurate. I would say so. Adam says, what's sad is that former staff was on the fence between Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart. Adam, I'll give you a little bit of background on that. I don't think they were ever on the fence. The fan base definitely was. I thought it was 60-40 Peyton at the time. But they knew that Manning was the guy. The goal was, and you remember transferring back then, you had to sit out a year. And if you weren't cleared, which I think Tennessee did clear and play for A&M because they wouldn't have been an SEC team at the time, you had to pay your own tuition, which is the most bizarre thing ever, an amateur having to pay for their schooling. But anyway, I think they just wanted to keep them both on the roster for depth. I don't think they ever thought that Brandon Stewart was really going to be as good as Peyton Manning. I think that was pretty evident. David Cutcliffe has told me that. I mean, I don't think there was ever a real question. But in the fans' minds, they like the idea of a running quarterback. That was sexy at the time. Now you have to be somewhat mobile, right?
Yeah, I mean, people say that. I still think Peyton Manning would be a Hall of Famer if he played in the NFL right now.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think it was everything I've read is they were shocked at how easily Peyton Manning picked up information. It sounded like Huckle said you could teach him one thing one time and he'd learn it, right?
Look at this. I love what Travis says. Brandon Stewart VFL because he led to a national championship.
Because he beat Kansas State. He made sure Tennessee didn't have to play Kansas State for the national title. And by the way, guys, if you think I'm crazy on that, in 2000, Tennessee did play Kansas State. You were covering that game, Dave, the Cotton Bowl. Tennessee had the Outland Trophy winner at defensive tackle. They had Albert Hainsworth, who was already a superstar caliber player at that time, and they still got wrecked in guarding the triple option.
No, that's true. Was that the Rick? Okay, the Cotton Bowl, was that the Rick Clausen one?
No, the Rick Clausen one was against Texas A&M 4 years later. This was Casey Clausen's freshman year, where Travis Henry had, in his final game, had 17 carries for 180 yards, but yet Randy Sanders decided he should throw it 35 times with Casey Clausen instead.
Did you know that at the Cotton Bowl that this may surprise some people, the old Cotton Bowl, that heat is optional? Because at the Rick Clausen game, there was no heat in the press box. And I remember I couldn't feel my toes. I'm not being a whiny press guy. Just tell me that the heat's out and I'll dress differently. But there was no heat there. So we were as cold as the players, except we weren't moving around. I
believe that.
My other fun press box story, which I've told you before, is that they had the heat blowing up in Kentucky right on a window, and it was cold outside, and it exploded and shattered all over me. And I had to move seats, and then we had an open press box for the rest of the game. But let's
before we finish, I just want to point out Tennessee did lose that game to UCLA 30 years ago, 25-23. And that was part and parcel of a 1-3 start before Peyton became the full-time starter and they finished 8-4.
Okay, I hate quiz radio, like when a guy or quiz, whatever we do now. Like I ask you a question and you don't know, but I'm going to do it. Do you remember the game in which he threw the out pattern that showed that he had a rocket, that Peyton had a rocket?
Well, I don't remember because I was 6, but I watched the documentary on it, funny enough, and it was Mississippi. It was against Mississippi State. He had come in for Todd Helton. They lost that game, but I think Jimmy Hyams was the one who says in the documentary, like, he made this pass across his body at Mississippi State that you don't see a freshman make. And
yeah. Well, listen, you should have been working at 6. 4 downs is now.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, so it's a day late because we had a Monday game, but we've got takeaways.
And I'm sorry to all of you guys who actually watched that game.
Yes.
Idiots.
Yes. We've got takeaways from the weekend, so we'll get to those right now. Cooper Mays, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Yes, hit like and subscribe, and don't forget about that notifications button. We would greatly hit that ding, 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 the bell. What down, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
All right, let's start with the SEC. The SEC offenses, still the college football show. I think the average was 62-2 that Jimmy Himes tweeted out. And you think Georgia is the most complete team in college football. What was your take on the SEC for first down?
It was insane. I mean, 5 teams went over 60 points, 3 went over 70. And this is the defensive league. And it was just incredible. I told you guys ahead of the year that it would be the year of the quarterback in the SEC. And I'll say this. I've watched enough football to say this, Dave. You usually throw FCS games out the window. Very true. But if you can hit that 60 mark against FCS teams, yeah, you do usually have an elite offense at that point.
Yep,
and
agreed.
By the way, and there's no question about Georgia. Like, it's Georgia. They're as good as advertised. And they have one of the other elite quarterbacks who just wasn't able to do it because he played a top 25 school.
Yep, there. I want to talk about on second down, 3 big name teams. Here we go.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, thanks, Coop. Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame. I thought that Blake Topmeyer, who we've had on the program, was pretty spot on when he talked about Clemson in his column. I don't know if you saw that, but he said it's just official that Clemson is done. And you wrote that as well. Clemson will no longer reign over college football. You also asked the question, Miami, Notre Dame, back on the top of college football. Give me your take on those 3 teams, big name teams. And I'm going to admit right now, I was wrong on Marcus Freeman. I thought when he got hired, he was a player's coach at Notre Dame, and that would slowly go downhill. As it turns out, they're competitive. They won over the weekend. Kudos to them. Miami, I'm the one guy who liked Mario Cristobal, I think, in the world. And Clemson really affects Tennessee because they recruit a lot of the same players, Caleb.
I think Clemson's fall is directly tied to Tennessee's rise. I think those things are not mutually exclusive. That's a big part of this. And yeah, and I think part of it is that they're just stuck in the ACC and it's just getting harder and harder to recruit there. As far as Miami and Notre Dame, Dave, don't give up yet not believing in Marcus Freeman. Sometimes coaches can have very successful seasons and still be bad coaches. And I think that I watched that game on Saturday. Marcus Freeman would have been on my football IQ list that we're going to be doing later in the show had he lost that game because he made a lot of basic coaching mistakes. Mario Cristobal, I ask you this with Cam Ward at Miami, who came from Washington State. He led my Heisman race through September last year. I think Mario Cristobal could be like where Mike Norvell was last year with Jordan Travis or a Gene Chizik with Cam Newton. Like, I still don't believe in him, but bad coaches can land a generational quarterback and go really, really, really far.
Yep.
In college football.
Let's take a look at the Florida schools for third down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Florida, FSU, just weren't very good. FSU and Florida, you say combined irrelevancy worst in decades.
For the first time since 1973, guys, Florida and Florida State both lost by 15 points on the same weekend. Guys, Florida State tickets this year, maybe at their cheapest since air conditioning led to the growth of the state, the population boom of the state in the 50s and 60s, okay? I think you can get really, really cheap tickets. Who wants to go watch that game? And I don't know which one's worse. I think Florida State was a total fluke last year with Jordan Travis. And Florida, I mean, we're going to talk about them later, but they're just a disaster of a program. And people are going to blame Billy Napier, rightfully so. But, guys, that goes top down. That goes all the way to the top. They are a completely disastrous program in athletics altogether. And Dave was the one who told you that up front. and he's going to be proven right over the next 10 years.
Let's go to third down, Coop.
Tennessee
I thought
center
that was
Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Oh, no, that's third down.
Okay.
We're at third down, I think. Colorado, I'm pretty sure. Colorado has 2 elite players and nobody else, you write. So let's stay west. And USC has a defense, we think. But I also think LSU in that USC game mismanaged that game and had a quarterback that could have done a lot more. I believe we discussed that yesterday for a moment.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So starting with Colorado, Shedeur Sanders may be the best prospect of quarterbacks. Travis Hunter, what if Tennessee once again loses out on the Heisman because another player was a two-way player? And
that would be terrible. But I don't think that Colorado is going to win enough games to get him that sort of notoriety.
Well, that also. Oh my gosh, I'm writing a column on this. This is already coming to me. We got to talk about this maybe another day. But Tennessee has had 2 second-place Heisman finishers to 2 of the only type of Heisman winners possible. One, a two-way player, Charles Woodson. The other, a player who played on a losing team in Paul Hornung in Notre Dame, who went 1-9. Travis Hunter could fit the mold of both of those guys this year, and it could be at Tennessee's expense. So just watch out. Now, as far as USC having a defense, Iowa having an offense, I agree. I think a lot of it was about LSU, and they were trying to figure each other out. But USC holding LSU to 20 points or Iowa scoring 40 against Illinois State. Now, it was Illinois State, but Iowa scoring 40 anytime is shocking, isn't it?
It is. Let me ask you this, Caleb, with Shedeur Sanders and Nico, who do you think is the better quarterback?
Right now, I have to say Shedeur Sanders. Right now. I'm not saying Nico can't be, but guys, if y'all watch Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he's whatever you think of his father, whatever you think of him and going to Colorado, this dude's amazing as a quarterback. I mean, I honestly see, I thought about this. What about like the best quarterbacks that played on really bad teams in college? There's him. And I mean, he almost rivals John Elway in that, doesn't he? With Stanford.
That's a really weird good comparison because they didn't have a lot of protection either. So I would take Sanders right now. But I think we both would agree it's not even close. We would take Heupel and Nico as the combination coach as opposed to whoever the offensive coach is out there in Colorado, and or Dion with Shedeur. So I think that Shedeur Sanders might be a little bit better. I could see them potentially, if they were in the same draft, being the 1-2 guys easy. Now we got people saying Sanders is overrated. Guys, I know you don't like Dion, and I get that. And a lot of people didn't like Dion when he played, but Caleb, he always showed up. And Shedeur Sanders, he's done a lot of talking too. But to me, he always shows up and always plays well. I think he's light on his feet. I think he's a really good football player. I think they're actually a little bit similar. How similar are they?
In size or just in profile?
Just in profile.
Play? I actually think they are similar. They're both a little bit thin, wouldn't you say? And yeah, so I agree. I will say this: Shedeur Sanders could get wrecked before the NFL. This is where it's not a good John Elway comparison. John Elway was huge. Dude was massive. And so he could take those hits. I'm not sure if Shedeur can keep taking the hits.
You know, I haven't stood next to Shedeur, but I've stood next to Dion. He is remarkably bigger than you think he is. Does that surprise you?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I was like, is that Deion Sanders? Whoa, he was standing next to Cam Newton. And Cam Newton's huge, right? 6'5".
Yeah, Cam Newton is absolutely huge.
Yeah, he was in that ballpark. Cam Newton didn't dwarf him. I don't know what he was listed at throughout his career, but he was a pretty big dude. I was pretty surprised. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Some people are already using the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. hooked for 10% off, you should do that because you get 10% off. How about that? All right. Are we at 4th down? Is that where we are?
Yep.
I'll let you see Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right. 4th down on takeaways from the weekend. I'm going to wedge in an extra down here. Penn State struggled as well.
No. Penn State's the only traditional Big Ten power to not struggle.
Right. Penn State did not struggle over the weekend. You said USC gets a pass. And then I want to get to the Heisman race, and I want to get to your top 10.
Yeah, so USC gets a pass because they played LSU. So them struggling is like, there's nothing wrong with struggling with LSU.
Sure.
But Michigan only beat Fresno State 30-10, and Ohio State beat Akron 52-6, but they only led 14-0 at halftime. And the same is true with Washington, both the national title runner-up last year, who played Weber State and was only up by 14 at halftime. And then Oregon beat Idaho 24-14. And then West Virginia Penn State goes and beats West Virginia at West Virginia, who wasn't a bad team last year. And Morgantown's a brutal place to play, and they dominate 34-12. I'm going to be honest, Dave. I think they could be Big Ten favorites after what I watched over the weekend.
Interesting. And then the Heisman race, you got some interesting names on here. Is this based off just week 1?
It's, guys, my Heisman race and top 10 are solely based on week 1 and what you did. So you have to play the competition. So I got Cam Ward beating Florida because of what he did against Florida, Carson Beck because of what he did against Georgia. And yes, I got Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt because of what he did against Virginia Tech, Travis Hunter, two-way player, Colorado, and then Miller Moss with USC. And then
if you go to our merch shop, you can actually pick up the Pavia for Heisman shirts.
It won't last, but he deserves it. And my top 10, I mean, again, I put the priority on if you played a Power 5 school or not. So, and then how you played against them, because that's all I got to go on right now. I don't judge any preseason or projections for my top 10. So, number 1's Miami. Number 2 is Penn State. Number 3 is Georgia. Number 4 is Notre Dame. Number 5 is TCU. Number 6 is USC. Number 7 is North Carolina. Number 8 is UNLV. Number 9 is Vanderbilt. And number 10 is Boston College. That will change, but that's based on right now. Who you played.
Kind of hoping to tease that moving forward. Thanks for that.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. The UPS store, Hardin Valley, here to serve and help individuals and small businesses by offering a wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, conveniently located right there on Hardin Valley Road, 10629, the UPS store in Hardin Valley. So this guy's going to join us in exactly 2 minutes. John Adams, let me ask you real quick. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 to hash out some football here?
I think this could be the best college football season of all time. I watched a huge spate of games this first weekend. So many really good quarterbacks. Caleb mentioned that in his Heisman thing. That USC LSU game looked like a semifinal college football playoff game. Those teams are very talented with great quarterbacks. And it just, there's so many good quarterbacks now and it's a quarterback driven sport. As Caleb pointed out, Diego Pavia of transfer from New Mexico State is a really good quarterback. Why didn't Florida State try to get him?
Don't know. We'll discuss in 2 minutes. It'll be John Adams, brought to you by our good friends at Neubert Collision Center. Hang tight. 2 minutes, and we're going to we'll get to the stat of the day. Also, John, with a fantastic column, thinks that Nico and Dylan Samson might be the best backfield Tennessee's had since Manning and Lewis. You know those names. So we'll get into that, chop it up. Also, Billy Napier has a meltdown, which he calls out his fans. And our weekly football IQ segment, where there is proof that some coaches aren't that bright. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
When the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid 25515. 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
John Adams to join us very shortly. I'll remind you, you can join Hooker's Corner. The QR code is right there. We'll have a massively awesome prize for September that we're working with our friends at Sports Treasures on. It was a Joe Milton autographed Tennessee helmet last month, and we gave that away on Friday, so that's heading out. So join Hooker's Corner for just $9.98 a month, and you can be a member and get increased recruiting coverage, and also you can win weekly prizes and our monthly grand prize. And don't forget, if you just want to be a free member, that's great. You can be a free member, be a part of the crew, and you will be registered to win an incredible Garmin watch that's worth over $1,000, and that's brought to you by our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Rick Terry has the fire opals. He's got it all. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. He's been in Knoxville and Kingston Pike for years. There's no other place that you should go to for your jewelry needs, and I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the station, because once we get 8,000 members and you're a free member of Hooker's Corner, we're going to give away a watch worth over $1,000. $8,000. That'd be a heck of a watch, wouldn't it, John Adams?
It costs more than mine. Barely, but it's close.
Barely. I want to get you your column, and it was pretty strong. I'm gonna give you credit. That's why John beat me in the top columnist in the state, which I called John about, and I said, congratulations. He goes, I forgot I entered it. You didn't. How many of those awards have you got, John?
It's over 30.
So my joy from finishing second to John was completely overshadowed by his trophy room that he has. I don't know if you've been to John's house, but there's an entire room just for his riding trophies.
I thought you were third.
Third. All right. I was second. But Jimmy Iams, who writes for Off the Hook Sports, was numero uno in his division, won the Gary Lundy Award. So that was pretty awesome. But we got other stuff to talk about. John Adams is already casting these massive compliments on two players that just played the mocks.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
John says Nico and Dylan Sampson could be the Vols' best backfield duo since Manning and Lewis. Jamal Lewis and Peyton Manning. John, you got one dude that's one of the best quarterbacks of all time and a Hall of Famer. You got another dude that is one of a handful that have rushed for over 2,000 yards and did it before the NFL expanded to 1,300 games a year. And so I would say that's a pretty strong claim.
Well, I'm not saying they're better. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying they're Tennessee's best since then. Tennessee's had some other good quarterback running back tandems. Go back to Joshua Dobbs and Alvin Kamara, Jalen Hurd, all those guys. It would have been nice if Butch Jones would have seen fit to play Kamara a little more, but I think he saw him as kind of a project, and he was trying to work him in to the offense.
Well, the problem was they paid the other running back so much that he could have gone to the NCAA.
What those guys didn't surprise me at all. I know it was Chattanooga, but you look at Nico, and we've been talking about this for a year. I mean, I saw the SEC is loaded with outstanding quarterbacks. There are college really good quarterbacks all over the country right now. But if I'm an NFL owner and I say, okay, I can draft one right now, I'm taking Nico. That's who I'm taking over all these guys. And there are a lot of really talented quarterbacks out there. A few of them in that USC, LSU game. Nussmeier, Miller Moss can both really fling it. Carson Beck at Georgia, of course, is a great quarterback. But that's how good Nico is. You just don't think about the competition. Just trust your eyes. From what people who watch a lot of football, you can just see it. The passes he threw, you don't see those that often in college ball. Some guys in the NFL, a lot of guys in the NFL can't make passes like he can. So, and then Dylan Sampson, I think Dylan Sampson, because he was behind Jabari Small and Jalen Wright for 2 years, people look at him as, yeah, he's pretty good back, got good speed, but he hasn't passed those guys up. So how good is he really? I mean, everybody starting to wondering why Nico didn't play a little sooner last year. Kind of wonder if Dylan Sampson would have played more. He's a complete back. He catches a ball. I didn't notice him missing any blocks. I know that's something that was focused on in the Iowa game. But in terms of a runner, he's underrated because he breaks tackles. He can break tackles. He did that against a good defense in Iowa. He did it one season against Kentucky. He can break tackles, and he's got speed, and he can really catch the ball. This is a terrific 1-2 punch Tennessee has back there.
I agree. And I want to expand on Sampson, but first I want to ask you just kind of your impressions on Nico. What's the best Tennessee football backfield duo ever? We have as a poll question on our YouTube page, is it Peyton Manning, Jamal Lewis, Heath Schuler, Charlie Garner, Josh Dobbs, Alvin Kamara? And right now, Peyton and Jamal, needless to say, are leading. Then there's an other, because as good as Tennessee's running backs were with Andy Kelly, I don't think Andy Kelly was elite, but you could probably throw that one in there and just pick a back. But let's start with Nico. And I know Caleb has a question about Nico as well, but my question is with Nico, did you see anything out of him in the Chattanooga game? Because we have to take into account the opponent. That took you aback, surprised you, that you took note of? I just kind of want your general thoughts on his game. This is the first opportunity I've had to talk to you.
Well, nothing really surprised me because I had such high expectations for him. However, things I noted, his repertoire of passes was so complete. The touch he has, and when he has to zip it. Remember how we just went on and on about how hard Joe Milton throws the ball?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nico throws it really hard too. He's got quite a fastball if you want to put the radar gun on him. He really does. And he uses it wisely. When do you throw it that hard? It's not important to try and knock a helmet off one of your receivers. That doesn't help you. But those touch passes, and as you guys noticed, how much Tennessee threw over the middle. Didn't do that last year. Tennessee trusts Nico, his accuracy, that he can drop it in between defenders in a zone. And the other thing was how judiciously he was in the pocket. You could tell he was going through his reads. You could tell he was picking up secondary and third receivers, and he was doing it quickly. There wasn't a lot of hesitation. So also the other thing was that he seldom ran, but that was a last resort, and that's what you want him doing. He can run, he can make people miss. But
Caleb, I want you to jump in here. I'll take another one. One time I thought he ran early, but it was really wise because there was an easy 6 yards ahead of him. Most quarterbacks don't process that. They're looking downfield, and there's a feel there where you're like, hey, there's a gap in the offensive line, the defensive line. I can go get me a quick 6 on a first down, and a 2nd and 4 is incredibly manageable. That was just one play that stuck out to my head that to me was a different level of understanding than most quarterbacks have, which I believe is his best asset, more than his arm, more than his physical ability, the way he processes things. Caleb?
Well, I do want to send out congratulations to Joe Milton because he doesn't have the worst overthrow in college football history anymore. I don't know if anybody saw that DJ Ukulele overthrow last night in the red zone against Boston College. It is the worst overthrow in the history of overthrows. A clear touchdown pass on the 5-yard line and just throws it out of the back of the end zone. John, it's funny you bring up over the middle, and that's what stands out with me about Nico too, was that's not just Joe Milton they didn't do that with. They didn't throw over the middle a lot with Hendon Hooker either.
No, they didn't.
Yeah,
Wait. Let me. Am I misremembering? I remember a lot of dig and slant patterns with
those slant patterns, but those kind of intermediate range passes where you're throwing into a zone. I don't remember Tennessee doing as much of that 2 years ago, and maybe it did. I'm just in my mind, they did it more with Nico, but.
I would say this. I would say this, Caleb, and then you take off. I would say they are totally comfortable doing it with Nico. They were not at all comfortable doing it with Joe Milton. With Hendon Hooker, they were pretty comfortable. Fair?
Yeah, I don't think they were comfortable with Hendon Hooker doing it if they were to pass over the middle, if there was man coverage and the guy was really right up on the defender. That touchdown pass to Dante Thornton, the one that stands out to me, John, is that yes, Dante Thornton had to reach for it. I think Nico made that throw on purpose, he threw it that way because he wanted to make sure the defensive back could not touch the ball, whatever he did. That I haven't seen a Tennessee quarterback do that in a long, long time.
No, yeah, what you're really pointing out is how advanced Nico is. He's so far advanced in most college quarterbacks, and we're seeing that across the college landscape now. You look at Miller Moss for USC. Making his 2nd start. He started through 6 touchdown passes against Louisville in the bowl game, and that was no fluke. You watched him against LSU Sunday. He was making those kind of passes. But these guys are doing it early on, and even though they don't have that much experience, that's the thing about Nico. I can't help but reflect on what if he had played in the second half of last season.
Yep. So we could definitely go down that path. Caleb, go right ahead. I mean, I thought he should have played at times. I was told he had a bit of a bad wrist early in the season, so I thought you got to pass there. But I certainly wonder how the end of the season might have been different, assuming Nico's 100% healthy and had he gone out there.
Well,
right, so
go ahead, Caleb. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about. No, I didn't realize you want to jump in. You go ahead because I got a totally separate question related to this topic. So.
Okay, well, excuse me, but just one other thing I noticed about Nico. What a perfect fit he is for this offense. Milton wasn't a perfect fit. Milton will be better, could be better in a different system. Nico was like, here's the prototypical quarterback for this system. His release is so quick.
So, boom.
And that boom, he just gets rid of the ball. The ball jumps out of his hands. And the difference that makes a receiver, whether it's a running back coming out of the backfield or whether it's a bubble screen to the outside, you make the throw that quick and the ball's so catchable, the running back or the receiver makes the grab and then has time to make a move. As you know, that makes all the difference in whether one of those plays could go for big yardage or is tackled for a 3-yard gain. He gives his receivers a great chance to make a play, and not a lot of quarterbacks do that.
I think that was a statement play call for North Carolina State and anybody else. It was early in the game. It was like, look what we can do. We can play the middle of the field now. And I think that's exactly what happened. Now, Caleb, I know you want to jump to a different topic. Give me
not different topic, same topic.
Same topic. Okay. John's appearance is brought to you by our good friends at Neubert Collision Center.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Roll, Caleb, roll. What do you got?
So, John, obviously the narrative, because we're talking about Nico and Dylan Sampson being the best backfield. Now, I know you said since Jamal Lewis, Peyton Manning, I assume you're not going to put them above Jamal Lewis and Peyton Manning, but I wanted to hit a couple of others real quick. Could you compare them to the ones I have in the poll question, which is Josh Dobbs and Alvin Kamara, but also Heath Shuler and Charlie Garner? I mean, Charlie Garner was a Pro Bowl NFL running back, and Heath Shuler was a Heisman runner-up. Can they be better than those?
Oh yeah, I think I would say Charlie Garner. Right now, I would give him the edge over Dylan Sampson because I haven't seen nearly as much of Dylan Sampson. Charlie Garner also was rotating in a deep backfield, and sometimes you forget how good he was. I mean, he could go 70 yards. Very shifty, really good player. Heath Shuler, terrific player, great arm, and he was a really good running back. I would have liked to have seen Heath Shuler in this system. But see, to me, what really enhances these guys is they are made for this system. And I think Heath Shuler, you put him back there. Remember, Heath Shuler was not as big, but he was a little bit Tim Tebow-like, and he could run over linebackers. And he had some speed, tremendous athlete, and he had that super strong arm. So yeah, he would have been great in this system, but we don't know. We didn't get to see him in this system. I'm not knocking those guys because they were both really good. And there were other tandems. I mean, Joshua Dobbs went about it a different way, but what a great running back. I mean, you could say if you're talking about having the best running backs on the field at the same time, was Tennessee ever better when it had Joshua Dobbs, Jalen Hurd, and Alvin Kamara? I mean, you had T. Martin, Travis Henry, Jamal before he got hurt, but Joshua Dobbs is a better runner than T. And that, you know, with Kamara, again, I would have liked to see more of Kamara. I think everybody would. I don't think Butch knew what he had with him. And Jalen Hurd was really good too. He rushed for over 1,200 yards. Don't get me wrong, but Alvin Kamara was like, well, he showed it in the NFL.
Guys, I'll tell you, the comparison that can be made between Peyton Manning and Nico has nothing to do with their athleticism because Peyton ran around like he had his shoes tied together. We all know that. But the comparison that can't be made, and I could argue this right now, is Nico and Peyton are the two most accurate quarterbacks in the past 30 years. And I would stand by that off the very limited amount I've seen of Nico, because I believe firmly that accuracy is the most important aspect in football playing quarterback that you can have. John, am I out on a limb to say in the past 30 years, Peyton and Nico are the most accurate quarterbacks?
You're talking about Tennessee, right?
Yes, Tennessee,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's not just hitting it passing it to a receiver and hitting your receiver. It's hitting the receiver right where he needs to get the ball. Mm-hmm. Those guys, you go back to Peyton. Peyton Manning probably had a stronger arm than people gave him. Nobody said he had a weak arm. He had a good arm, but you didn't compare him to the John Elways of the world, Jeff Georges, Aaron Rodgers, those kind of guys. But when you look at Nico, those guys, both of them, they just threw a very catchable ball. They knew when to change speeds. And again, we've only seen a little bit of Nico, but you got to trust your eyes. I mean, just because you've only seen a little, he's doing things that other Tennessee quarterbacks just couldn't do. So
I agree.
So never mind the competition. Just look at what he did. And you're right, that accuracy, and that's magnified in the NFL. That's why I say if I could take any quarterback right now out of college, if I were an NFL owner, I'd say I want Nico because of the accuracy and size. But the accuracy in the NFL, you're throwing into a much tighter window.
Okay, let me ask you this. I don't want to get off topic. I want to get back to Sampson because I think he's going to make this offense different than it's been under Josh Heupel, and I've said that for a while. I know you watch John Adams. For those that don't know, he watches college football all weekend. He watches every game, at least every pertinent game. Shedeur Sanders and Nico, if you compared those two, because we got in that discussion earlier. I honestly, right now, think Shedeur's a little bit better because he's a little bit older. I don't know how they'll end up when their careers are complete, but compare those two.
Well, I haven't seen Shedeur that much because I'm focused mainly on SEC. I watched him this past weekend against North Dakota State. I watched him some last year. He's really good, but I would take Nico over him. I mean, in every way, I think Nico's bigger. I think he's got a faster release. Both are very accurate. But yeah, I'm just sold on Nico, and it's not just because I'm in Knoxville.
I think we know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just watch all these guys, and I said before the season, I thought the only guy I would take over Nico in the SEC would be Carson Beck. Why? Because Carson Beck has done it in big games. I think he handles pressure well. He's unfazed by how big the moment is, goes about his business very efficiently. I don't think he has great receivers right now, but I think he's really good. But now I would probably take Nico over Carson Beck too.
Wow, that's strong. And I don't know that I would argue that. I might have 5 days ago, but I'm not going to now. Let's touch on Sampson. Caleb has brought up pass protection woes. Let's surely to goodness those are taken care of. Here's what I like about Sampson is I think he can be a Marshall Faulk type of player. And no, I'm not saying he's Marshall Faulk. I think he can bring that versatility that Jabari Small and Jalen Wright couldn't. Jabari Small was always a little bit small and a step slow. Jalen Wright is a pound it between the tackles type of guy, which is what they want. But Dylan Sampson, I believe, can be better in the flats and out in running pass routes than either of those guys. And I think he can be pretty scary.
Yeah, and one of the things I notice about Sampson, he kind of makes it look easy. And that may detract from his ability in some ways because it doesn't look like he's maybe as fast as he is. That was just something I noticed in the Chattanooga game. He didn't look like he was running that hard, but he's outrunning guys. He's leaving. That was just my take in one game on him. But I do. I like that Marshall Faulk. I watch Marshall Faulk play a lot. What a great college running back. A guy, the complete back. That's what you want in a back, particularly in this kind of offense. A guy that can make those quick cuts, very, very quick cuts at the line of scrimmage, and then have the speed to outrun the secondary. And I think Dylan Sampson can do that.
You never get misquoted in broadcasting at all, so Travis likes to throw that out. Sampson is the next Marshall Faulk. Dave Hooker. I didn't say that. And I brought somebody else up. Oh, excuse me. All right, so John, let's switch gears for a second to Tennessee's rival, I guess, unless they just become totally inconsequential, and that would be Florida. If there's a game that you go out there and play for your coach, that would have been the game. Also, we know that the Florida kids play each other in high school, so you would think there would be motivation there as well as they play Florida State. But here's what Billy Napier had to say, and then John, I want your take on this. Go ahead and fire that up, Caleb.
We got to go to work on the football part, and I think we got to become a more consistent team, and we have to execute better. And if we can focus on those things and not necessarily what some guy in his basement saying in, rural Central Florida on social media, then we got a chance to get better, right? So,
okay. Is that a quote that leads to your firing, or is that a sign that your firing is coming? Because to me, the one for Butch Jones was the champions of life. That was the 2x4 that broke the camel's back. I said, well, he's out. Is that kind of quote? I mean, wouldn't you try to sell that you're building great men and fantastic future leaders in business? I mean, that's not what anybody wants to hear. So is that the quote that we'll look back on and say, that's when we really knew that he's out the door?
Look, I watched that press conference and I thought it really didn't matter what Billy Napier said or whether or not he could open a water bottle. I mean, I have arthritis in my right hand. I have kind of hard time opening some of the bottles that were put on with the vice. You know how they're put on with the vice.
I didn't hear the water bottle thing. Did I miss that?
Oh, yeah, he struggled to open the water bottle.
He couldn't open a water bottle in the post-game press conference. It was a bad look, but it capped off. It capped completely bleak. Yeah, capped, no pun intended. Billy Napier, from the moment he opened his mouth, sounded like a coach had already been fired. It was as though before he came out of the locker room and went to a press conference, he said, "Oh, Billy, by the way, you're gone. We can start negotiating when you make your exit. You can start cleaning out your desk whenever you want to." Also, no, Billy Napier doesn't have an upper lip. I kind of focused on that. He didn't, and I'm not ripping the guy. I think he's a fine human being, but he doesn't have an upper lip. And he
so how can you have a stiff upper lip in tough times?
I know. I don't have a stiff upper lip. In fact, I don't even have an upper lip. But he also didn't open his mouth very wide when he was talking. He just kind of like, well, we got that rural guy in his basement down in rural Central Florida. I mean, and do you do that? That's really appropriate. A guy in rural Central Florida. So we're going to make fun of people out. Imagine a farmer in Central Florida fighting every day to make ends meet. And now Billy Napier is saying he doesn't have a clue and he's living in his basement.
And he may be a Gator fan.
Huh?
And he may be a Gator fan. Probably is.
I mean, that was an awful look. Billy Napier was probably a pretty good coach at Louisiana. He did a nice job with that program. But the first time I saw him, I thought, here's a guy that kind of needed to stay at Louisiana. I don't think he has the skill set for a big-time program that he can handle all the pressure that comes with it when you're making that kind of money. And so now the pressure is coming, the heat's on, and he's ripping the fans. I mean, just get it over with.
Yeah.
I mean, with Caleb, John, start with Caleb. Would they be better off just to fire him right now and get a head start on the coaching search? Seriously.
Yes, yes. And I said that they, for those who don't remember, Tennessee, the whole reason the botched coaching search happened in 2017 is they waited way too long to fire Butch Jones when everybody knew he was gone. And we know Billy Napier's not lasting this season. I don't think he's going to make it out of September. So yeah, I'd fire him now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really believe if Jeremy Foley was the athletic director, he was there a long time. Jeremy Foley made some mistakes in the coaching hires, but he was quick to correct them, to erase them. Ron Zook, come see me in my office after the game. No, don't even bother with that. Let's don't go that far. Just, you can start cleaning out your office. I believe Jeremy Foley would have fired Billy Napier after that game. I really do.
Can I ask you guys both this, since y'all both covered the team during this time?
Yes.
What's a worse PR move? Billy Napier saying some rural Central Florida guy in his basement, or Jerry Green saying Tennessee fans who don't like us can go to Kmart?
I think they're very similar.
Well, they are similar, but there is a slight difference. Jerry Green was actually winning games. By the way, minor point, he was actually winning games. Billy Napier's out there. If Florida played Vanderbilt next Saturday on a neutral field, whom would you pick?
Vanderbilt. Vegas would favor Vanderbilt, I'm pretty sure.
Somebody referenced Fire Marshal Bill, which has always been, is that Billy Napier? Because he was on In Living Color. That's Jim Carrey. And you used to always say, let me tell you something.
What?
Did you see Fire Marshal Bill on the screen?
Billy Napier, and I'm no Brad Pitt. I don't mean to make fun of somebody's looks. It's inappropriate. But he is kind of an odd-looking guy. I mean, just the hair, no lip, no upper lip. But he's probably a great human being. Although the guy out in rural Central Florida probably doesn't think so right now.
Well, go ahead, Caleb. What did I say his first year at SEC Media Days? If I hear that Billy Napier is detail-oriented one more damn time, I'm going to have to go to the restroom and vomit. Because when you hired Nick Saban, you said he's a great defensive backs coach. He's a great defensive coach. When you hire Josh Heupel, you say he's got this offensive mind. But it's like he was detail-oriented. Does that mean he remembers to put the toilet seat down?
Shower
with that, you know what that means? And this is why we know he's not even a great detail guy. Because if he was a great detail guy before the game, he would have practiced opening a water bottle to make sure he was going to have an easy open bottle. He didn't do that. He flunked the detail test too.
Guys, is it me, or is he weirdly a clone of Derek Dooley? In the sense that these were both Nick Saban assistants who coached at a school in Louisiana that took a job at a larger school they weren't ready for, and they weren't gurus on any. People say he's more like Butch Jones. I actually think he's more like Derek Dooley in that way, where they're not like gurus on any side.
Yeah, I don't think of him like Derek Dooley. I think of Derek Dooley as a guy that he was just kind of okay about being a head football coach. Well, I got this job. I'm going to be good at it. I'm going to make some money. And I think Derek Dooley's a bright guy. And I just think he was looking at bigger picture. I got a better job here at Tennessee. I'll take that. He stayed with a law firm for a while, large law firm, as an attorney, and probably said, man, I don't need to pile up this many billable hours. There's got to be an easier way to make a living and even make a better living. And he did that. So, no, I don't compare him to – I think Derek Dooley, not a great coach, but I think he was a lot brighter than the kind of guys Tennessee hired during that stretch. Can you see Jeremy? Do you think Jeremy Pruitt could open that water bottle? I think Jeremy Pruitt would have probably just started banging it on the lectern. I'll get that thing open. He would have given up trying to just started throwing it against the wall.
like some sort of chimpanzee or something, frustrated, or that would be really odd. So John Doof, Billy Napier, I'm going to put the over under at October the 15th. Does he make it?
Now, I don't know what his contract is. Is there sometimes there's a date or something? There's this weird contract with Sam Pittman, another coach who's probably will bid us adieu this season. If his record drops below 500 after a certain date, you can fire him. So once it does, once it does, I mean that AD will get shot out of a cannon to get him over there to fire Sam Pittman. He doesn't want to waste a second time. And Bobby Petrino, you're my interim coach. Wink, wink. Now, so no. See, here's the difference with Florida has an interim president. Florida has Scott Strickland, the AD who hired Dan Mullen and who hired Billy Napier. I mean, Scott Strickland's gone too.
Yeah, there's no question.
So
they have to. So they'll probably keep him, I would think, till the end of the year because they have to replace their athletic director too. That's a great point. I want to. Some people like, and Caleb does, when I do my Uncle Dave stories, like from back in the past. So Caleb, you'll enjoy this, and I think our listeners will as well. The first time I heard Derek Dooley's name, I get a call and it says Adams on my phone. So I'm like, I got to call that because Tennessee's in the middle of a coaching search, and we think it might be this guy or this guy or this guy. And he goes, hey, have you heard of a guy named Derek Dooley? I was like, no. And he goes, I've got from a source that he might be the next guy. And we both were so, I guess, taken aback that they would hire him that I don't think we believed it, even though John had a really good source. And we didn't write it and we didn't break it because it was just like, surely God, no. I mean, it's one of those where common sense overcomes a good source. And my great source, like Mike Hamilton, rest his soul, he had no control anymore, so we couldn't confirm nor deny that Derek Dooley was going to be the next guy. But I still remember that's the first time I ever heard Derek Dooley's name.
Yeah, well, Billy Napier's gone, and Florida.
Shane Beamer should be gone too, by the way.
Who?
Shane Beamer. Just to throw that in. Did you see Shane Beamer lectured the media for criticizing him for barely beating Old Dominion? He said, "I don't know what you guys do, but around here we celebrate wins. You beat Old Dominion 23-19."
Listen, I for some reason I'm just switching back and forth. I don't want any dead air, so I'm going back and forth from one game to another. And I picked up right after the ODU South Carolina game, which was dreadful. And may I pronounce South Carolina is the worst team in the SEC right now?
They are.
I don't think I'm getting a lot of debate on that. Okay, so Shane Beamer, and Shane Beamer's always kind of a little bit cocky. He's kind of always got a smirk like, I know something that nobody else knows. And he's doing this post-game sideline interview and he's upbeat. And of course they're throwing him nothing but softballs kind of thing. Like, boy, let's celebrate this win. I guess you guys will be celebrating this one in the locker room. And he's going, but as soon as it ended and the announcer turned to face the audience and he turned away, Beamer turned away, his whole face changed. It was kind of like, oh my God, we just won this game by 4 points. We are so doomed. Has anybody seen the rest of my schedule? I'm done here. I mean, I'm calling Daddy after the game, and we're going to see where I can land. Some FCS program. Yeah.
2 minutes more with John Adams. His appearance brought to you by Neubert Collision Center with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Hang tight. And then one of our favorite segments of the week, the Football IQ segment. This just in, some coaches are not very smart. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, Now, saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Here's what you need to do, kids. You need to be a member of Hooker's Corner. There is the QR code right there. And, that's it. Oh, sorry. You can be a member of Hooker's Corner. Join us, get exclusive recruiting information. Also, you're eligible to win a huge monthly prize, which was a Joe Milton autographed helmet that may have been a little off target, but it was a nice helmet. So you can join Hooker's Corner and get more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun and maybe even John Adams. We'll put John Adams on the chat at some point. But we would love for you to be a part of Hooker's Corner. And don't forget about Rick Terry and Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Once we hit 8,000 subscribers, and we're right at 6 now, then you will be able to win a Garmin watch just by being a subscriber to this channel and a free member to Hooker's Corner. So we've got an absolute ton going on. We want you to be a part of it. Hit the like and subscribe button, turn the notifications on so you know when new stuff drops. All right, now I put you two guys together, and you're the two most critical guys coaches anywhere. And I knew this was going to happen at some point. Actually, wait, I got a message. Yeah, Billy Napier wants to respond about the negativity we've thrown out there. And he says, I want to tell you something. Never gets old, John. You have to go back. Should we make him a part of the program?
Well,
he's a fire marshal that blows everything up. So it's actually apt in more than just the lack of an upper lip. It's apt in that he's inept. A bunch of short words there.
There is, I'm sure Caleb noticed, there were some other brilliant coaching performances this past Saturday. I noted a couple of them.
Yes. All right, let's get to that right now. Caleb Calhoun, what do you got? Brilliant coaching performances. Number one.
Welcome back, Football IQ segment of the first of the year. For my rules of Football IQ, and I make it hard on myself, which is I say the coach has to make a decision that they otherwise may have won the game had he not made. So, yeah. I do have to send an honorable mention to our old buddy Butch Jones, though, because if it wasn't for a terrible call, he would have been on this list. And
it was almost the only Division II coach almost the only Division I coach to lose to a Division II coach this weekend, right?
And by the way, they were holding a 31-27 lead with 1:50 left near midfield, and Butch Jones called 2 pass plays, which gave one ended in a sack fumble that gave them the ball back that allowed them to go back and take the lead, which is why they needed that last second touchdown. Only Butch Jones could make a mistake like that. But my fifth one, and you guys may find this one debatable, but I had a big problem with it. Mike Elko, and I believe in Mike Elko. I actually think he's smart, but throwing it 30 times with Connor Weigman when he was that bad in the game and taking a timeout to call that 4th and 2 pass play at the end against Notre Dame, that was just bad. That's a bad call to have out of a timeout, given how bad your quarterback played that game.
Well, funny you should start with him, and I think he's a pretty good coach. However, in that game and the way that game was going, I'm sitting there watching and thinking, you got to put another quarterback in. A&M has some athletic backups. Nothing is happening here. It wasn't just Connor Weigman. The receivers couldn't get open. That was clear because he's holding the ball. They're not getting open. Offensive line, I thought the offensive line would be much better. It didn't look good at all. Notre Dame whipped it play after play. You got to make a change there. Just don't go down with the ship there. Give them a shot. It's still a close game, but you can't move the ball. He was inaccurate the entire game. He shook up. He's frustrated throwing the ball because his guys aren't getting open. Needed to make a change, and they have some quarterbacks on the bench that could have given them Notre Dame a different look and made some plays with their legs that could have turned a close game their way. So I thought that was a horrible coaching performance by Elko.
You suck, you jackass.
All right, who's next, Dale?
Yeah.
All right, so number 4. I don't know if you guys watched PJ Fleck in Minnesota on Friday against North Carolina, but
no, I can't watch him. But I can't watch him because I have flashbacks to Butch Jones roaming the sidelines at Neyland Stadium, so I have to stay away from him.
So on a third, there are 2 dumb ones. On a 3rd and goal from like the 9 in the first half, he called a draw play. Didn't work, so he had to settle for a field goal. But at the end of the game, so Minnesota lost to North Carolina 19-17 because their kicker missed a 47-yard field goal. I wanted out there. PJ Fleck settled for the 47-yard field goal. There were 25 seconds on the clock. Minnesota had a timeout. PJ Fleck called a run play and let the clock run all the way down to 4 seconds.
That reminds me of when Lane Kiffin did that at Alabama. Do you remember that? They had about 17. Yeah, they had about. It was stupid. They had about 17 seconds left, and I thought that was so out of character too to be an offensive coach. He did that and turned it into like a 40-yard field goal. John, thoughts?
Yeah. So did you say he called a draw play from the 1-yard line?
He was milking.
No, he with 25 seconds left and a timeout, he called a draw play when they were at the 30-yard line and needed a few more yards for field. Called a draw play and ran the clock down to 4 seconds.
Okay.
You suck. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. But after the play failed, did he just sprint down the sidelines and start rowing an imaginary boat? I don't know.
I mean, I think so. It was. Now Minnesota does have like one of the best kickers in the Big Ten, but it's still college football. You can't trust a kicker on a 47-yard field goal. You got to get within 40 if you can.
No, I saw some missed field goals from about that range. If they would have been 5 or 7 yards closer, they would have been made field goals. That you can't in college ball. Maybe in the pros you can think a 47-yarder is a gimme. It's not a gimme.
It's not.
Caleb, next.
Our old buddy Tom Herman, who has got Lane Kiffin's old job at Florida Atlantic. We're realizing why he got fired at Texas. I don't know if you guys watched over the weekend, but Florida Atlantic had a chance to upset Michigan State. And they lost 16-10. On the final drive, Tom Herman decided on a 3rd and 15 near midfield and on a 4th down, he decided he was going to burn 2 timeouts to talk about the 3rd down and 4th down plays. When they didn't get them, obviously Michigan State was going to run out the clock. This is my biggest pet peeve. I'm sick of coaches taking timeouts to talk about plays. One, because you need those timeouts for possessions. But the other point, and you guys bring it up, You shouldn't have to use timeouts to talk about plays. You should already have a play prepared to go in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's I didn't see any of that game. I mean, I do watch a lot of college football, but as I say, I have certain standards that I don't drop below. That includes PJ Fleck and Florida Atlantic, and I'm not that keen on Michigan State either. I don't watch a lot of Big Ten football. I'll watch more with Southern Cal in it.
They might need a rebuild there. And if you're a builder or contractor, you need to know about work trucks. All about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks with the Knapheide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks with an X. Remember, Work Trucks with an X. That's right. WorkTrucksLLC.com, Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. The entire inventory is on Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. They'll have you fit to a T. Proud supporter of the Tennessee Vols. Who's next, Caleb?
I had a couple more, and these are some good ones. I really wanted Lincoln Riley to be on here. I didn't want USC to win that game because Lincoln Riley made mistake after mistake with clock management in that game, but he still got lucky and won. And because he won, I got to put Brian Kelly on here. I don't mind the going forward in the first part of the game. Sometimes you take risks and they don't work out. I mind playing prevent defense on the first 2 plays of the final drive, which he played prevent defense. If you saw it, it was a cover 2 with a 3-man rush, which is effectively a prevent defense. They have a timeout and a minute 50 left and a very good quarterback, and they only need a field goal. And, of course, they get to midfield, and then you decide to start playing tough defense. But at that point, you're playing a little desperate. USC moved the ball that quickly because of Brian Kelly's defensive scheme at the opening of that final drive against them. And I was high on Brian Kelly when he was hired. I'm really questioning myself on that now.
Well, I was high on him too, and I'm still trying to figure out what in the world they're doing with Harold Perkins.
Oh, I agree.
I don't know.
He just disappeared. The announcer said he's back at middle linebacker. I thought they were going to use him differently. Thought they were going to use him as an edge rusher, maybe line him some up back there, but it makes no sense. You're taking your best defensive weapon and making him non-consequential. I don't understand it at all. It's like he was such a force as a freshman. I mean, I would just tell Harold Perkins, you don't play a position. You just go out there and try and get the ball away from somebody or maim the quarterback. But God, I'm baffled by that. And I've always been high on Brian Kelly. You can't argue with his track record. He's won wherever he's been, and he got Notre Dame in the playoffs twice. But Lincoln Riley clearly outcoached him. Clock management aside, Lincoln Riley outcoached him. Lincoln Riley can call plays. You can't question that. He's a really good play caller.
John, we absolutely love your columns. I found the Dylan, Sampson, and Nico to be particularly entertaining and informative. So where can people follow your work, sir?
KnoxNews.com, or you can subscribe to the Knoxville News Sentinel or somewhere out there in the SEC network. It's there. I don't
John,
know
did you
where
see
all
Brent
it might
Pry
show up.
Did you see Brent Pry run 2 number 0s out for Virginia Tech?
What now?
Did you see Brent Pry run 2 number 0s out for Virginia Tech to give Vanderbilt a field goal, which is why they won that game?
I read that. I thought, but I can't leave this conversation. Before I go, I got to bring up Deion Sanders of Colorado. And I know Deion's not a serious coach. So dumb coaching mistakes don't really apply to him. But when he gets the ball with 2:19 to go in a 5-point lead, and he throws on just about every down, I think, and ended up giving North Dakota State a chance to win. It was almost as though the line, I think, was 9 points. He's up by 5. It was like he's trying to score again. Maybe he has, and I wouldn't put it past him, maybe he has a betting game coordinator who huddles with the players earlier in the week and say, okay, guys, just give me all your money. I'll go bet it for you. won't be a problem. Of course, we'll be betting on us. And that's what it looked like. They're trying to score again and beat the spread. It didn't work out. Their only saving grace was North Dakota State's quarterback couldn't throw the ball quite far enough to convert a Hail Mary, ended up on the 4 or 3 yard line. That was the craziest coaching I've ever seen. Late game situation. That was worse than something Les Miles could pull out. But again, it's Deion, and he's not a serious coach. So with that, I'll try to keep a stiff upper lip this week and see you next week.
John's appearance brought to you by our good friend Collision Center, and that's Fire Marshal Bill or Billy Napier. Whoever you choose, it can be one and the same. As John noticed, he didn't have an upper lip. I've never noticed that before, but now I will not be able to get it out of my mind. John, have a blessed day. We appreciate you, buddy.
See you guys.
John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. Yes, what?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because we didn't get to it. My top one was Brent Pry, and I would have put Deion Sanders in there, but he won. But we should have given him an honorable mention, and that's on me for not mentioning the honorable mention like I did Butch Jones. But yeah, so if you saw Virginia Tech was facing Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt was going to punt. Then Virginia Tech ran 2 players with the same number out. So Vanderbilt got a penalty, and then they got a field goal on that drive.
There's a part of me that thinks that that's an administrative thing. I don't think that they should be allowed to have multiple numbers. I know that, that one's going to play offense and defense. But here's the thing, it's a recruiting thing more than anything, because kids want single digit numbers and they want the cool numbers like 23 or 33 or 34. So, but they love the single digit numbers. But that's just, to me, it's just stupid to have 2 guys with the same number.
It is. I mean, Deion's is the worst, and he would have been number 1 on this list had North Dakota State scored. I think that I've told you guys this from the start. I think it's because Deion Sanders doesn't care if Colorado wins. He wants his son to be a Heisman candidate, so he wants to pad his son's stats.
Give me a tease for stat of the day coming up.
It involves Tennessee at UCLA again, but a different year.
I love it. 2 minutes stat of the day. Up next, the show represented by Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones of Banks and Jones certainly will take care of you. Stat of the day up next.
And the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, 25,515. 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Time to bank on it, and I'm going to see if you agree with this, Caleb. Bank on it, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank. And I've been with Commercial Bank for over 20 years. Let me tell you something about Commercial Bank, and I'm going to do it right now. Commercial Bank is absolutely your go-to for all businesses. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Bank, for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. Just kind of old style banking that take care of you. If there's something wrong, I get a personal phone call from somebody I know at the bank. They're just that awesome at Commercial Bank. When I had to move, they didn't have a commercial bank, and it was just a totally different experience. I'll tell you that right now. My bank on it is that Billy Napier will not be the head coach at Florida next year. It's not the most difficult bank on it ever, but there he is right there back in his In Living Color days. Will you agree with that bank on it, Caleb?
My bank on it is he's not going to be the Florida head coach by the end of September.
Oh, wow. It's a good bank on it. Okay, bank on it. We shall see. Again, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank. And the stat of the day coming up. But I remind you, Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial Bank, for personal business. Commercial Bank, life made better. Link right down below, cbtn.com, cbtn.com. Caleb, what is our stat of the day?
We just did a football IQ. We talked about it's Labor Day. Yesterday was Labor Day. We talked about the Rose Bowl game of Tennessee at UCLA. So I'm going to do a Rose Bowl game that you covered, Dave, because I'm going to make fun of a coach for one of the worst game plans in the history of college football. And that was 2008 Tennessee at UCLA, which they lost 27-24.
Threw it 42 times, 44 times?
41 times is my stat. 41 passes with Jonathan Crompton, even though Montario Hardesty and Arian Foster were averaging 6 yards on the ground.
Can I tell you another Uncle Dave story?
Sure.
So, I mean, you know who Casey Clausen is, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, Casey Clausen lives in L.A.
Yep.
So I see Casey. I'm like, what's up, Case? How are you? He goes, I'm good. And the first thing he said, and you said it was 41 pass attempts?
Yeah, 41.
I couldn't remember the exact number, but he goes, but 41? That was the first thing he said. And I was like, yeah, they threw the ball a lot, didn't they? And it's like, yes, they did. I still don't understand what happened, why that was the mindset to throw it all on Jonathan Crompton. Who was the offensive coordinator? He had 3.
That was Dave Clausen's first game as offensive coordinator.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that makes
and by the way, Kevin Kraft on the other side threw 4 interceptions. They did everything to give that game to Tennessee. But they were throwing.
And that's when they wore the orange pants, right?
Yep, that's where they wore the orange pants.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. Stat of the day is brought to you by Asia Cafe. What do we have as our stat of the day?
That was our stat of the day. 41. 41 is the stat of the day.
Stat of the day.
41
Excuse
passes.
me. Brought to you by Asia Cafe. 41 passes and
in a game when your quarterback could not complete 50% of his passes, the other team threw 4 interceptions, and you were averaging 6 yards on the ground.
Asia Cafe, treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from garden family recipes. 5 locations to choose from. AsiaCafe.org. Right down below, AsiaCafe.org. And they also have that fantastic 6-to-1 Brazilian Cocoa Energy Booster Premix Instant White Coffee, the Golden Label coffee bag with the Lim family on it. Lim Dynasty, Asia Cafe in Knoxville, Tennessee. How about since 1909? They've been making that coffee. It is fantastic. Great boost, sustained energy. and the best Asian food that you're going to have. They do hibachi, sushi. They also do the regular, what you would call Chinese, I guess, stir fry. It is unbelievable. It is all right there. So for Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks and Jones, banksandjones.com. Other lawyers will tell you they'll go to trial. They won't. They will settle. Banks and Jones goes to trial. Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. For Caleb